Hi everybody, welcome to today's Lectio Divina. In this video, we're going to be going over John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. Now, as I read this passage, what I want you guys to do, as well as every video that I put out, is to practice something called mental prayer. Now, what is mental prayer? Well, it's 4 steps to praying, okay? So, first step, preparation. Step 2 is recollection. Step 3 is the reading. And then step 4 is conversation. Right? So how does this work? Well, step 1, preparation. What you're going to do first is you're going to put yourself in a position to pray. Now, if you can go on your knees, that's great. That's awesome. If you can sit down, even better. Maybe you're in a position where you have to stand. That's okay too. But you got to mentally prepare yourself to have a conversation with God and be open to Him, right? And this is a very important step because sometimes we'll get distracted by a lot of things. Maybe the TV will be on. Maybe there'll be like a phone buzzing. You got to try to find a place where you can focus on the Lord. Now, if you have a lot of siblings, I totally understand. I've been there. Sometimes, okay, you're going to have to find a different place to stay. And the more you practice mental prayer, the better it will, the easier it will become for you to tune out other sounds, right? So don't worry if you get a little distracted here and there. That's perfectly normal. And I tell you what, all of the saints get distracted. Okay, so that should be encouraging for us to know that even saints get distracted sometimes. Okay, so don't worry about it. If you get a little distracted, that's okay. Step 2 is recollection. So once you find a place to prepare to pray, you're going to acknowledge God's presence. Okay, you're going to say something to the effect of, Lord, I believe you're truly present. I believe you hear my prayers, and I trust in you, right? And it can be any way you want to say that. But the thing is, you have to make it heartfelt. You have to open your heart to God, and you have to say, Lord, I am here to listen to you, right? You have my full attention, right? And you have to really mean it, right? So that's recollection. And then step 3 is the material. Now, for the material I'm going to be showing you guys, we're going to be doing the entire Gospel of John. Obviously not today, but over the next however many days we need to finish the entire Gospel of John, okay? So that's step 3. Step 4 is a conversation, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you guys the text. I want you to close your eyes. I'll give you a phrase to think about and focus on, and then I want you to have a conversation with God, right? You can say it out loud if no one's around, or you can have it in your mind, right? And one thing I want you to know is that when you're conversing with God, He hears your prayers. Every single one of your prayers, He hears them. He listens to you. And the way God speaks to you back, because a lot of people want to know, okay, how do I know if God's talking to me? Okay? The way the Lord speaks to us is through time. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you are praying for, I don't know, maybe you're nervous about something coming up. Right? Maybe there's a test you have to take in school. Maybe there is a question you have for God. Maybe you're asking God a question saying like, Lord, I have a hard time understanding why you're truly present in the Holy Eucharist. Help me understand why, right? And what God will do is that over time, He's going to give you little bits of information that'll help you get an answer to your prayer. But the thing is, you have to be open to it, and you have to be looking for it. You have to be keeping your mind and your awareness up to see the signs of God, right? And we're actually going to find that out pretty soon, that in the life of Christ, He gave people so many reasons to believe that He came from God, right? So many reasons to believe. But guess what people did? They ignored it. They didn't want to believe in Him because they would have to make a radical change in their lives, right? But it's really important that we make an effort to pray every day, because when you pray every day, you're establishing a relationship with God, right? Just like you have a relationship with your parents or like with a friend, right? If you want to have a good relationship with somebody, you got to talk to them a lot, right? You got to talk to them, be friendly with them. Jesus even calls us friends. He does that later in the gospel, and we're going to see that towards the end of John. But I want to give you guys that context just so you remember that God always hears your prayers. He loves you very much, and He is going to take care of you. Okay, but you got to trust Him. You got to trust that over time, He will reveal the answers and the questions you have. Now, I'll tell you this. There's been times when I've done this, and I'm praying and I'm thinking about the passage at hand, and I will get an answer. God will just enlighten my mind and tell me something that I didn't even think was possible, something that I didn't even come up with, right? An explanation to something that I never thought before, and that can definitely happen to you, okay? In fact, I'm sure of it. It does happen, okay? But you have to make the prior steps. Preparation, recollection, which means you're going to acknowledge God's listening. You're going to trust in him and believe in him. Step 3, you select the material, which in this case, we're using the Gospels. And then step 4, have a talk. Ask God about what you just read. Ask him questions about it, okay? Or anything that's on your mind, really. All right, so we're going to read John chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. I invite you to close your eyes and try to visualize. Now, when I read this gospel, you're going to hear the word a lot. Okay, the word. Whenever you hear the word, the writer is referring to Jesus. Okay, so just think about that. When you hear the word, think, okay, he's talking about Jesus. Okay, when you hear John, he's talking about John the Baptist. Okay, so I'm going to read it for you guys. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things came to be. Not one thing had its being, but through him. All that came to be had life in him, and that life was a light of men, a light that shines in the dark, a light that darkness could not overpower. A man came, sent by God. His name was John. He came as a witness to speak for the light, so that everyone might believe through him. He was not the light, only a witness to speak for the light. The Word was the true light that enlightens all men, and he was coming into the world. He was in the world that had its being through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own domain, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who accepted, he gave power to become children of God, to all who believe in the name of him who was born not out of human stock, or urge of the flesh, or the will of man, but of God himself. The Word was made flesh. He lived among us. We saw his glory, the glory that is his as the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth. John appears as his witness. He proclaims, "This is the one whom I have said, he who comes after me ranks before me, because he existed before me." Indeed, from his fullness we have, all of us, received, yes, in grace return for grace. Since through the law was given through Moses, grace and truth have come through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is only the Son, who is nearest to Father's heart, who has made him known. Okay, so that concludes the gospel reading. Now, the phrase I want you guys to focus on is this one. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So, when you have a conversation with God, I want you to repeat that phrase in your mind and ask the Lord, what does this mean? Now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insight, something to think about, okay? So, when Jesus came to us, when he decided to become part of our humanity, he left the throne of heaven, right? He gave up being the most powerful being in the whole universe, the one who created the universe, and lowered himself as a human. Now, it's kind of hard for us to understand this, right? Why would someone with so much power step down? Think of it this way. Imagine if the president of the United States, right, or maybe the king of France, or maybe a great emperor decided to become a slave. That'd be kind of odd, right? Yet, God did this for us. He did this out of love for us, even though he didn't have to do it. He simply wanted to do it for you and me. And as we see in this gospel, right? He was the light of men and the light that shines in the dark, right? Yet people did not believe him, and people did not accept him, and they couldn't comprehend who he was, because what people thought at the time, they thought that if God came down, he would be extremely powerful, he would be fearing, he would be overwhelming for all of us. Yet what did Christ do? He came as a human being. Yet he showed tremendous power, as we'll see through his miracles, right? He definitely proved himself to be the Son of God, for sure. So I want you to meditate upon that, okay? I want you to close your eyes, spend as much time as you need, and meditate upon the fact that Jesus exists. He is seated at the right hand of the Father. Right now, as we speak, he is in heaven, and he's looking upon you, and he is praying for you, and he's looking after you, and he loves you very much, and he cannot wait to see you, right? He can't wait to see you in heaven and unite you to him. And throughout the next weeks, as we read the Gospel of John, what I encourage you to do is start your day with prayer, and then try to have whatever you prayed about be present throughout your day. Okay? So I don't know what time you're watching this, but if you're watching this in the morning, try to think about this throughout the day, right? Not just once, but try to pray unceasingly. Think about it throughout the day. That doesn't mean you have to kneel for 24 hours. It doesn't mean that. But what it does mean is that once you're finished, try to look through the lens of faith at everything you see, and recognize that everything that you see, every situation you encounter, there was a time in which God descended upon humanity and did so out of love, and did so because he wants us to be with him in heaven and show us the way there. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. God bless.